Joe Biden, this is a little two-part story, a story in two parts.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to play the first part. This was a couple days ago. Mike, were you aware that Joe Biden was arrested in South Africa for trying to see Nelson Mandela?
No,
I spent my whole life fighting for civil rights, voting rights, social justice, economic justice. And that's what I'll do when I'm your president. This day, 30 years ago, Nelson Mandela walked out of prison and entered into discussions about apartheid. I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robbins Island. When he came to the United States, when he came to the White House, to the Senate, I was chairman of the committee, and he walked in, and the most incredible thing I've ever felt in my life. He walked across in that private room with the big table we have in the executive room, and he walked over, and I said, Mr. President, he leaned, I said, thank you. Thank you for trying to come and see me.
So he was arrested. you heard that part? I just want to hear it again.
Pandering asshole.
This day, 30 years ago, Nelson Mandela walked out of prison and entered into discussions about apartheid. I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robbins Island.
Now, the reason a lot of people are bringing this up, they go, Joe Biden, after he left office as a vice president, he wrote like this entire memoir of his life. And everyone's been asking, man, that's a pretty big story.
And he never wrote it in the book.
Why did you never write? Like, even people that, this isn't just like a fucking right-wing talking point. A lot of people like, that's like a big story. Like that should be like one of your big stories in your book. Why don't you write it? Well,
and it's also should have been a big story of his for years.
Of course.
Just in general, people should have been telling this story.
Well, from the BBC News today.
Uh-oh.
Joe Biden drops claim he was arrested seeing Mandela.
Oh boy. But that's all right because these you-know-whats already heard the story. That's all he cares about, just getting those blacks in South Carolina.
Joe Biden was not arrested in South Africa while trying to see Nelson Mandela. His campaign has conceded.
Ooh.
His campaign conceded. The U.S. presidential contender, is he though?
He's a contender.
Yeah, all right.
Front runner, I'd even say.
Babbling old fool had reportedly said he was arrested during a trip there in the 1970s when South Africa was under apartheid. But a deputy campaign manager told reporters Mr. Biden had been referring to an episode where he was separated from colleagues at an airport. Mr. Biden.
So he went to get a Cinnabon.
Yes.
And wandered off and got separated from his group for a little bit.
Yes.
And that's the equivalent of
being arrested trying to see Nelson Mandela.
Arrested in Africa. Okay, great. Got it.
Mr. Biden is counting on black support to win South Carolina on Saturday. He won't. On Wednesday, Mr. Biden won the endorsement of the Democratic Congressman James Clyburn, a black lawmaker who is considered key in winning the state's black vote, which makes up more than 50% of Democrat voters there. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders currently holds the most delegates for the Democratic presidential nomination, followed by former Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg. And then Mr. Biden is third. The former vice president first made the arrest assertion at an event in South Carolina earlier this month, reminiscent of his personal history of Mandela, South Africa's first black president who died in 2013.
I didn't even know he was sick. I just didn't know if you wanted to do it or not.
I know whose turn it was. Mr. Biden, at the time a senator for Delaware, said he had been visiting the country with a delegation of American officials and had planned to visit Mandela in prison. But during the trip, Mr. Biden said he had the great honor of being arrested with U.S. ambassador on the streets of Soweto. So he wasn't even on the streets. He was in the airport.
So how do I, it's like, how do you trust anything Joe Biden says? How do I believe this corn pop story now? Is that not true?
Mike?
Is that also a made up story?
Mike?
What?
I don't think the corn pop story is true.
You can't trust If I can't trust Joe Biden, I can't trust anyone anymore.
He threw at a Black History Award brunch in Las Vegas. Oh, there's more. So then at a Black History Award brunch in Las Vegas last week, he also said Mandela had thanked him for his efforts. Quote, he threw his arms around me and said, I want to say thank you, Mr. Biden told onlookers. I said, what are you thanking me for, Mr. President? He said, you tried to see me. You got arrested trying to see me.
So he's making up crazy stories now.
about Nelson Mandela.
And then Nelson Mandela hugged me, and he said, Joe, I want you to make sure that every black person in South Carolina votes for you in the primaries.
Wait, what?
In 2020.
He died way before that. At least 7 years, Mike. Mr. Biden's account of what happened has been rebuffed by Andrew Young, the U.S. ambassador to the UN at the time, who says he traveled with Mr. Biden to South Africa. Oh, this is the guy that was with him.
He's the guy he's claiming was arrested. Yeah.
Yeah. Local media have also failed to find any evidence of the arrest being made. It says here, fact checkers at the Washington Post called the claim ridiculous.
Oh, no.
Washington Post. On Tuesday, as they awarded it 4 Pinocchios, which I hate these little fun things that these fact checkers do. It's 4 Pinocchios. Shut up. On Tuesday, Mr. Biden, Deputy Campaign Manager Kate Bedingfield, told reporters Mr. Biden had been referring to an incident where he was separated from his party at the airport. When a journalist noted that being separated did not equate with an arrest, Ms. Bedingfield repeated that it had been a separation. They spin anything, man.
Oh, yeah, of course. These motherfuckers, man.
He was not allowed to go through the same door that the rest of the party he was with Obviously, there was an apartheid in South Africa. There was a white door and there was a black door. But he did not want to go through the white door and have the rest of the party go through the black door. He was separated. That's not being arrested.
Yeah, that's literally being hung up for 2 seconds.
When I exited the plane, I was directed to one side of the tarmac, while the African-American congressmen traveling with me were sent to the other side, said Mr. Biden. I refused to break off, and the officials finally relented. So he wasn't even separated. The officials relented, and they let him go through the door. No, Mike. It's not like he even had to go through the door.
You know what this is? Mm-hmm. This is the equivalent of me saying, I got arrested last time we went to New York. And you go, wow, what happened? And then it turns out, no, they selected my bag to be additionally screened.
Extra screening.
And I stepped off to the side, and it took 2 minutes for them to go through my bag and then go, all right, have a nice day.
Sounds terrible.
I was literally detained.
Mike, no wonder you seem institutionalized.
No, it was 2 minutes of sorry. They just want to look through real quick. There's some kind
and they do the little powder swipe.
Yeah, you're good. Have a good one, man. Merry Christmas. I was literally arrested at the airport. Joe Biden is doing YouTuber clickbait videos.
Yeah, he should just be fucking President J Station over here.
Story of how I was arrested in South Africa.
He was faced scrutiny for his verbal gaffes and his long and sometimes controversial political career, including his vote in favor of the Iraq War. Republicans have been hammering away at him for his son's lucrative board position with the Ukraine natural gas firm, where he was vice president and in charge of the American-Ukraine relations. The issue was central to Trump's impeachment case. Wow, all of a sudden it's the BBC News, so they're kind of one step separated, so they're not as invested in this.
I believe him.
Yeah,
he personally rescued Nelson Mandela from that prison.
It's true.
And if you're black and you're from specifically the South Carolina areas and parts of Florida and you don't vote for Joe Biden, that's pretty gross.
And after President Mandela came out of prison, I personally helped to put tires around people's necks.
Whoa.
And burn them to death. That's true. That's my campaign manager. And all you see in the background is just someone with their head in their hands going, not again.
I could have.
Not again. Bloomberg is paying 6 figures for this job. What am I doing?
Seriously. They actually offered me 6 figures just to defect.
That's all I needed to do. I just needed to leave.
Should have defected.
What am I doing here? Oh, my God.